Hey, what is going on, guys? It's DK back at you with another video here for an early look at the Week 2 NFL slate. Real quick before we jump into it, let's go over my Monday night lineup. So this is what I got. It's still live actually right now, but if you guys watched my video, you guys knew I really liked stacking the early game. Ended up working out for me. So I went to Deshaun Watson, who was my favorite quarterback. Talked about that in my video. KAMARA is a spend up. Obviously, can't go wrong there. Latavius was a value guy who I said I really liked at 4.1K. I said I was playing DeAndre and Michael Thomas. Now, Kenny Stills got on to him once there's no Kiki Cutie. He did have that long touchdown at the end of the game, so that definitely helped. Jared Cook, I was a little torn here. I really like Darren Waller. I considered going the 2 tight end set, but I went with Renfro. Darren Waller's actually doing pretty good. I think he's like 3 or 4 catches already, so probably made a mistake there. But yeah, I mean, I really like Darren Waller. I mean, Cook was fine. Hunter Renfro talked about him, and I have the Raiders D as a cheap option. So overall, it's going to be a cashing night, a pretty solid night. So yeah, let's see if we can keep it going. Before I jump into trying to break down this early look at the Week 2 slate, a couple things. One, I guess in my Monday video, I did it really early Monday morning, and I guess my mic was too close to my mouth, so I do apologize for that. I'm going to go no mic for this video. And then number 2 is we don't want to go crazy with overreacting to some of the stuff that happened in Week 1, some of the really big games. So yeah, let's not go crazy with overreacting to some of the stuff that happened in Week 1. But yeah, without further ado, let's jump right into it. So MAHOMES at 7.5K at the top. Kind of expected him to be the most expensive QB. Now he's got a pretty good matchup here against Oakland. We saw what he did against Jacksonville. Jacksonville's a pretty solid defense, and he still lit them up. So I think Mahomes in play for sure for GPPs. Now for cash games, I like spending down a quarterback, but for GPPs, Mahomes 100%. And I honestly still think there is value where you could play Mahomes in cash too. Now Lamar Jackson was one of those guys I talked about in my video last for Week 1. Really liked him. He went off 5 touchdowns. Surprisingly, did very little through the on the ground, but I don't expect that to continue. I expect him to get a little more rushing work here. Now he's had a pretty good matchup against Arizona. He is priced up, but I definitely still think he is viable. Let's see other quarterbacks. So Tom Brady at 6.4K. I think it's interesting. It's just the blowout is so concerning to me. I mean, Miami just got destroyed by Baltimore. Now they're going up against New England with Antonio Brown, going to be active too. So that's just a concern for cash games. I think for GPPs you can play Brady, but I don't think I can go there just because of the blowout factor. And I can just see, once the Patriots get up by a couple touchdowns, they're just going to work the running game. So that's the issue with Brady for me. Dak Prescott, I think, is an interesting play here against Washington, 6.3K, a guy I'm keeping an eye on for sure. Drew Brees at 6.2. I do like this price a good amount. This is one game that should be a shootout, a pretty high over-under, so I think Drew Brees is pretty solid. I prefer playing him in the dome, but I think the price tag on him is pretty appealing. Let's see, other quarterbacks. Goff at 5.9. He kind of had an off week in Week 1, but I like the bounce back spot here. New Orleans defense, nothing to be scared about. So I think Goff and Brees in that game, one of my favorite game stacks for sure. Kyler Murray, I don't think we can go there for cash, but for GPPs, definitely got to consider him here, 5.4. Obviously, Baltimore's defense, one of the better defenses in the NFL, but yeah, I mean, Kyler Murray, he just goes to show, like, he doesn't have to be efficient to get you fantasy points. Obviously, Week 1 was a little scary, that slow start, but he made up for it at the end. So I think Kyler Murray in GPPs is still viable. Other options, I mean, Kirk Cousins is solid at 5.3. He just didn't have to do anything in Week 1. Minnesota got off to such an early lead that it just pounded the rock. So I think he's viable there at 5.3. Josh Allen at 5.3 too. I do like that he has that rushing upside, so I think he's solid. But probably my favorite quarterback right now for cash games, it's going to be Derek Carr at 5.1. Kansas City's defense, obviously their offense is really good. Their defense, though, not very good at all. So Derek Carr at 5.1K is really cheap, and this game should be back and forth. It's a really high over-under. So yeah, I think Derek Carr, probably my favorite quarterback as of right now. So let's move on to running back. So for cash games, running back, I always play 3 workhorse running backs, unless there's like a really, really good value play at running back. but I don't see that right now. So as far as the studs go, Saquon, I'm going to pass. I mean, this game in general doesn't seem that appealing. Giants, Bills, pretty low over-under. I mean, Saquon is going to get most of the work, but I just think there's running backs in better spots. One of those guys is Zeke. So he got limited in week 1. I said, on Twitter, I talked about in my videos that he's not going to get a full workload. But this is a situation we've got to monitor. If they say he's going to be back to, 100%, just normal, workload, then I would really like Zeke here. So we're going to have to take a wait-and-see approach to see what the news is on Zeke for week 2. KAMARA at 8.2. As of right now, my favorite spend up, definitely. Again, I do like this Rams-Saints game a lot. So, yeah, KAMARA, 8.2 as a, $1,000 discount off Saquon. Really like that. I think KAMARA's probably going to be really popular, but I'm probably going to eat the chalk for cash games. Dalvin Cook, so he was the most popular, like I said, for week 1 in cash games. Now the price is up there a bit, $1,200 price bump. Going up against Green Bay. Green Bay looked pretty solid defensively against Chicago, but Chicago's offense also was really, really bad. So I don't know if we can, contribute that to the really bad Chicago's offense, or if we can contribute to Green Bay being better in defense. But I think Cook is okay at 7.2. David Johnson at 7.1, only for GPPs. Baltimore's defense is pretty solid, so I don't think I could go there in cash. Gurley, no thank you. Talked about that. They're going to limit him, so yeah, I can't go Gurley. James Conner's interesting here at 6.8. I think he's priced fairly. Seattle's defense, about the middle of the road. So I think James Conner, he's a workhorse back. So I think he's a pretty solid play here. Mixon, questionable. Even if he plays, I'm not going to go there. If he's out, we can look to a guy like Gio Bernard, who I'll get to in a sec. Chris Carson at 6.4, I think is fair. Fournette at 6.3 is okay, but no Nick Foles. That offense should struggle a bit more, so I don't think I would be on Fournette. Sony Michel's interesting, but I don't think I can go there just because New England has so many backs. But, they're going to score a lot of points, so, he's interesting for that aspect. And again, I think New England gets up early and then just pound the rock. So I think Sony Michel is sneaky, or not really sneaky, but a GPP option. I don't think I could go there in cash. Now, Eckler was a guy I talked about who has a lot of upside, and he flashed that in week 1 for sure. 3 touchdowns. He's just such a good PPR back, and he got 70% of the workload. I predicted 60-40. He got 70%, so that's pretty solid. Detroit's defense, though, the best part of their defense is their defensive line, but I still think Eckler is in play here at 6.1 just because of his PPR upside. And then Mark Ingram, a guy I honestly wasn't too high on coming into this season, but this Baltimore offense seems really, really good. But again, they played Miami, so I don't want to overreact too much. But this is a really good match against Arizona. Arizona's defense not scared at all. So I think Mark Ingram is a really solid play here at 6K. He didn't get too much work too in week 1 just because it was such a blowout. But yeah, I think Mark Ingram is actually a really solid mid-tier play here. Derrick Henry and Marlon Mack. So I don't want to overreact too much. Both these guys had pretty big games. Mack had close to 200 yards. Derrick Henry had that big, the long run too, 84 yards and a touchdown. I think both these guys are okay, but I don't want to overreact too much to week 1. The Kansas City backfield of Damian Williams and LaShawn McCoy, I still think these guys are viable. There was no Darwin Thompson. It was just 2 of those guys. So on an offense so potent like Kansas City, I think both those running backs are still in play. Damian Williams, I think, has a little more upside. He's a little better PPR back. Kerryon Johnson was a little disappointing. There was a lot of C.J. Anderson in week 1. Wasn't expecting that. I expected it to be Kerryon Johnson, kind of a 3-down back. So that does worry me a bit here with him. The matchup's okay. I think he's okay. But again, C.J. Anderson getting good amount of work does worry me with Kerryon. Other backs, Gio. If there's no Joe Mixon, when Mixon was out a couple games last year, Gio actually flashed a good amount of upside. So he's a guy I would definitely consider. San Francisco's defense, not really scared of them. So I think Gio would be a pretty solid mid-tier to value type guy. Burita was a little bit of a letdown in week 1. Tevin Coleman did get injured, but Burita I don't think he got a catch. but I think he's solid here. They still have Mozart too, though, so I do expect them to kind of work both back. So, I'm not too high on Burrito this week. McCoy again. I think Damon Williams and McCoy are both viable. Josh Jacobs at 4.7. That looks like a pretty appealing price going up against a Kansas City defense that is not good at all. So I think Josh Jacobs also for cheap is pretty solid. As far as the Washington guys, I'll talk about where is Washington here. So Darius Guy's going to be out for a bit here. Chris Thompson's the PPR specialist. I don't see him getting a lot of early down work. It's probably going to be AP, honestly, at 3.4K. For cash games, the price is pretty appealing. I'm going to wait for more news, though. If we get news that AP is going to be the early down work man for sure, then I would like him here at 3.4K. But yeah, between picking the two, I think AP would be the safer one if he's the early down back, and Chris Thompson would be the one with more upside. That's basically it for running back. Let's move on to wide receiver. The top guys, you got DeAndre Hopkins at the top here. Not the best matchup though, but he is matchup proof. He's just so good. Michael Thomas, I do like this play a good amount. He's the clear end Saints #1 receiver, and this game is really high over under. So I do like Michael Thomas's spend up. Devontae at 7.7, I think is okay. Kind of had a letdown week 1. Minnesota's defense pretty solid, but it's got Aaron Rodgers at home, so I think Devontae's okay. Other receivers, let's see, Amari Cooper I think has some pretty big upside going up with Washington. Washington's defense not very good, so yeah, I think Cooper, him and Dak would not be a bad pairing there at all. Then let's get to Sammy Watkins, who had that huge game in week 1, almost 200 yards and 3 touchdowns. Now he's got a pretty juicy matchup against Oakland with no Tyreek Hill too. So I think Sammy Watkins is going to be pretty popular. I think he's viable, but I don't want to overact too much and just lock him in, say he's a lock and load, because he's not. But yeah, a #1 receiver on a Kansas City offense that's the most potent in the league. Sammy Watkins is definitely appealing here at 7.2. Thielen, I think, is pretty solid. Again, Minnesota got ahead in that one. They just worked the ground game, but at 7.1K, I think that's a pretty fair price for him. Then the New England receivers, you got Antonio, you got Edelman, you got Josh Gordon. It's tough. They have New England is going to score a lot of points, but again, I'm just a little worried that they get up early and then just pound the rock. But yeah, I mean, Edelman, if you want to go with Edelman, Antonio, or Josh Gordon, I'm not going to talk you off those guys. Other receivers, I like Cooper KUPP a good amount here at 6K. Probably my favorite of the 3 Rams. Again, Rams are more of a balanced attack, but Cooper KUPP plays in the slot. Really good PPR receiver. He had, 10 targets last game. So yeah, I think Cooper KUPP at 6K, that's a pretty solid price for him. Let's get to cheaper receivers. Hollywood Brown, I don't want to go crazy with this. Obviously, he had that big game, but I think he was only out there for 15 snaps, which definitely concerns me. So I'm going to fade here. I'll let others chase that big game. Then McCole Hardman. So he's going to be the #2 receiver right now for Kansas City. Again, any piece of the Kansas City offense is definitely appealing. This game in itself is pretty appealing for fantasy purposes. So McCole Hardman, I don't really know what his ownership's going to be like, but I definitely think he's viable. I would like it if he was cheaper. 4.8K is a good amount to pay, but Kansas City likes this guy. He's a rookie, so I think he's definitely in play here at 4.8. Emmanuel Sanders, I'm not too high on this Chicago-Denver game. Should be a slow defensive game, but that price tag is pretty cheap for him. Talked about Fitzgerald week 1. He did really good for me. Now he's got a tough match against Baltimore, so yeah. I'm a little, I think he's okay, but a little worried about that Baltimore defense. John Ross, I don't want to go crazy and chase that game. He had that, 12 targets, 158 yards, 2 touchdowns. It's a really good game for him. San Francisco's defense, not that good, but I don't want to go crazy and chase him. I think he'll be pretty popular, but I definitely still think he is in play. Other cheap guys, let's see. So let me go to the Oakland guys. All the Oakland guys are really cheap here with no Antonio. Tyrell's the #1 receiver, so I like Tyrell a good amount. Again, you compare any of these guys with Derek Carr. Hunter Renfro's in the slot. I've been watching this game. It's almost halftime now. They haven't used Hunter Renfro as much as I thought they would. They're using Ryan Grant right now as the #2 receiver. But Hunter Renfro isn't out there as much as I would like, so I'm probably going to pass on Renfro. So it's probably Williams would be #1, Grant #2, and then Darren Waller, I know tight end, but I really like this play at 3.3K. Again, I talked about him in my Monday night video. Really liked him. Really like him again here. So yeah, that's kind of my thoughts with those Oakland receivers. And that's basically it for wide receivers. So let's move on to tight end. At the top, you got KELCE at 7.3K. You can't go wrong here. No Tyreek Hill. I do like KELCE as a spend up. I think he has some really big upside. Definitely the most upside of any of these tight ends. So yeah, KELCE at 7.3K. You can't go wrong there. Kittle at 6.8. I think is okay. Again, San Francisco receivers, like I said, I couldn't really trust them. It's really Kittle's the only guy you can trust in their receiving corps. So I think George Kittle is fine here at 6.8. Evan Engram, talked about him, how I really liked him in week 1. He had that big game. Now a little tougher match against Buffalo. This game should be slow, a low over-under, but I definitely still think he is viable just because the Giants really don't have any other receiving options. Jared Cook, I think, is fine. Hunter Henry's fine. Mark Andrews was a cheap guy I talked about to pair with Lamar Jackson. If you went that route, you probably made a lot of money. He had a huge game, 8 catches for 108 yards and a touchdown. So yeah, I think he's definitely in play, but I think it's going to be pretty popular because a lot of people are going to chase. Let's see, other tight ends. Delaney Walker was a cheap tight end I talked about. He had a big game too. Now he's got a match against Indy. I think he's a pretty solid play again. Already talked about Darren Waller. Really like him at 3.3K. Oakland just loves this guy with no Antonio Brown. He's looking like the #1 receiver, even though he's a tight end, just watching this first half. So I do like Darren Waller a good amount here. Vernon Davis, you could look there with no Jordan Reed, but I don't think we have to. Hawkinson was a guy that I said was going to take a wait-and-see approach, but I did like his upside. He had that huge game, got targeted, 9 times? Yeah, 9 times or 131 yards. So I think, he's definitely in play. But again, I think he's going to be pretty popular because a lot of people will try and chase it. But, 3K for a guy that's going to be targeted that many times, I think you got to consider him. And yeah, that's basically it for tight end. As far as defenses go, it's an early look, but let's see. I haven't really thought about it. I mean, the Titans look solid here at 3.1K. The Broncos, I kind of like this price here at 2.7. This should be a pretty low over-under game defensive-wise. So I think Denver is a pretty solid defense there. You can look to the Giants, too. Josh Allen does have the rushing upside, but does turn the ball over a good amount. So, yeah, that's kind of my thoughts for defense. And, yeah, I think that's going to do it for today's video, guys. So, if you have been enjoying the content so far, I'd really appreciate if you would like this video and subscribe if you haven't. If you have any questions, you can leave it in the comment section down below. It's also really important to follow me on Twitter. That will be in the description below. I have some more video ups talking about probably value plays, game stacks, as well as week 2 breakdown later in the week. So look out for that in my channel. And I also have a showdown slate analysis video for Thursday night, so I have that up as well. So definitely we'll have some videos up probably every day on my channel, so look out for that. And yeah, I will see you guys in the next video.